one line in which he mentioned young people, something like dead and dying or wounded and dying in the streets. Well, Rodelli saw this and locked onto it basically to the exclusion of all else and thought this is a blueprint for the Zodiac crimes. And it sort of escalated from there. I must say it was an odd letter, but that doesn't necessarily mean that X is the Zodiac. It just means that he had certain concerns and decided to voice them, and it was printed by the Chronicle. It just happened to be printed 6 months after the Lake Herman Road murders. That's the only reason that this guy was even discovered by me.
Now, of course, Mr. X couldn't have planned that he could have written a letter on the 6th anniversary, but you can't guarantee a letter you write to the editor is going to be published on a particular date. That's not your decision to make.
No, quite right. In fact, it's absolutely impossible to guarantee that it's going to be published in the newspaper on a specific date. Quite the contrary, if he was to mail it, for instance, on June 20th, and there's no way to know that now because they don't keep the old letters, well, you've got a day or two for it to get from the mailbox through the system to the Chronicle. And even then, it's rare, if not impossible, for letters, unless it's written by, say, a very well-known political or personage or celebrity or something, for it to get printed on the very day that it's arrived. Otherwise, no, it could be printed 2, 3, 4 days later, if at all.
Yeah, maybe Mr. X actually wrote it on, on the 3rd of the month or something, and they just hung on to it for a while, or who knows?
Well, that's very possible, especially considering that the editorial that he referred to was on May 28th, and the theory goes that he wrote this letter on the 6th anniversary of the Lake Herman Road murders. Well, okay, but what if he did write it on, say, June 3rd? Well, that would make more sense considering the editorial had only been just a few days earlier instead of a month prior. So I think that, the theory is interesting. It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, I can't explain, Rodelli's behavior. He launches his own website, which is fine, and he starts, instead of focusing on making a case against his suspect, he seemed to be, motivated to do something to, drag down Arthur Lee Allen, which is kind of like kicking a dead horse, because Allen just, not that long ago, the DNA essentially ruled Allen out as likely being the Zodiac. So I don't understand why Rodelli would launch a website and then go out and focus on the website instead of trying to convince people his theory might be accurate. He wastes a bunch of time and energy on beating up Arthur Lee Allen and kicking a dead horse. That doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. And I think what he is doing is he rightly perceives that Art Allen is essentially, no matter what any of his detractors have done or said over the years, he is still the #1 Zodiac suspect, no matter what. Whether he's a Zodiac or not is irrelevant. He's still the #1 Zodiac suspect and the most well-known of all of them. So he rightly perceives him to be a threat to his theory concerning Mr. X. And so, therefore, it's logical, at least this is how I'm thinking, if I were him, it would be logical to try and attack and destroy the main suspect in order to make your suspect appear to be more likely.
Well, the stupid thing about that is that the DNA testing that seemed to eliminate Allen as being the Zodiac was from ABC's Primetime Thursday, and they also used the same DNA testing to eliminate Mr. X as being the Zodiac. So this doesn't make any sense, and Rodelli, I don't know if he's flipped his lid or what, but this is getting dumber by the minute.
Yeah, that is rather interesting because, yes, the DNA testing did eliminate Mr. X, but the funny thing is, he has since turned around and Mike Rodelli has since turned his opinion around and said, well, wait a sec, well, Mr. X was involved in some sort of hobby where he knew about saliva testing and I guess blood typing, and so therefore it was logical for him to have other people lick his envelopes for him. Well, wait a second, we found the same thing out with Arthur Lee Allen, because right after that show on Primetime aired in October 2002, several people emailed you and said, guess what, Art Allen didn't like the adhesive on the envelopes and the stamps and got other people to lick them.
Yeah, exactly. A whole bunch of people contacted me and said, well, Lee Allen, I don't know if he was a Zodiac or not, but he never used to lick his own stamps and envelopes. He used to have us kids do it because he said glue made him sick. So I don't know if it's true or not, but that makes sense. But some Mr. X guy that would, I don't know who would have a hobby that where he'd learn about blood typing and stuff. But some from 40 years ago, the guy's gonna know he shouldn't lick his stamps and envelopes. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Nah, I don't think anybody'd be able to think far enough ahead of that. Ahead to be able to think, yeah, well, somebody might be able to. And besides, this is just so crazy. It's like he doesn't realize that the one thing that he thinks eliminates X and makes the, from the DNA typing kind of, makes that irrelevant, is exactly the same thing that makes DNA typing for Art Allen irrelevant as well. So all of his arguments is just nothing more than an exercise in futility, because Allen is ruled back in as a suspect because of this whole revelation of the not licking the stamps.
And what was Mr. O'Delly referred to by SFPD?
Let's see, we got this directly from one of the investigating officers who we were fortunate enough to share a beer with one night a month or so back. Several beers, yes, that's very true. And he said that, yes, over at SFPD, Mike Rodelli is referred to as, and I quote, a flaming nut. Okay, we are now in front of 315 Tennessee Street in Vallejo. And this is known today as Character's Saloon, but back up in 1969, up until quite recently, the last few years, it was known as Caesar's Palace. And this is where Dean Farron, Darlene Farron's second husband, used to work back in 1969. And in fact, he was working here the night that she was shot by the Zodiac, along with Mike Mageau, out at Blue Rock Springs, which is just a few miles from here. Okay, and as you can see, this is an old sign for Caesar's Palace. And of course, this is we're in the parking lot right now. And this is about the only thing that's left, as far as I know, that refers to this place as Caesar's Palace. And of course, there's a stairway that leads up to an apartment, which is 317 Tennessee Street.
Hey, Ed, I think I know this here. This is Tennessee Street in Vallejo.
As a matter of fact, Tom, yes it is. We are heading now east on Tennessee towards, guess whose house?
Arthur Lee Allen's?
That is correct. First, however, we're going to be passing his former job, Ace Hardware. Of course, it's no longer there, but the building does remain. That'll be coming up here on the right-hand side. And is that it right over there? Yes, it is.
I don't see it.
Yes, this is it, this big white building. This is Ace Hardware. Or I should say what used to be Ace Hardware.
Oh, yeah, I see it now.
Okay, we are now standing in front of Ace Hardware, where the #1 most well-known Zodiac suspect, Arthur Lee Allen, used to work many a long year ago, back in the 1980s. As you can see, this is all closed right now. It's for lease. Hopefully it's not going to be torn down anytime soon, like so many of the other Zodiac landmarks here in Vallejo have been, such as Mr. Ed's and Terry's Waffle House. But this is unfortunately very well oh, hey, this is really cool. Look at this. I just spotted this. Here's a Zodiac symbol. Go to IHOP 3 blocks east of here for meeting Zodiac. Oh, wow. That's been there for quite a while. And no, we didn't put that on there. Okay, we're standing out the back of Ace Hardware, where Arthur Lee Allen used to work. And it's quite unremarkable. All we have is just one door where deliveries would be delivered, among other things. There's even a doorbell here. I wonder if it still works. Let's see. Maybe Arthur Lee Allen will answer the door. Nah, no sound.